I never thought that I would stoop this low as to standing on the side of a road with a sign saying, "Single mom, I have a job. I need a little bit of money to pay for my daughter's daycare." I got paid Thursday, and I paid rent and got gas in my car, and I had $30 to my fucking name. I don't even know what to fucking do anymore. Like, I need $90 for her daycare in 2 days or she gets kicked out. And mind you, when I was getting paid a little bit more, I was able to make those payments but still be left with hardly anything. Like, I feel like I'm being forced to do stuff that I really don't want to do. And I'm standing out there with the sign and people are disgusted with me. They park far away from me. And I'm not a criminal. I'm not a drug addict. I asked my parents for help all the time, and I'm so sick of it. And my mom's house payment went up, and she is hardly making it as well on Social Security. There's a lot of people out there struggling, and I feel bad that I even fucking did the sign on the side of the road because I should be able to provide for my daughter. And now I became one of those lowlifes.
Financial stability is propaganda. It's fake. It doesn't exist. We were spoon-fed the American dream growing up. We have the older generation telling us that if we just work hard and if we try, then like everything's gonna be okay. Newsflash, it's not okay. Everything is so freaking expensive. Every single person I know is hustling. They're sacrificing. They're working multiple jobs. And they're not even able to save at the end of the day. I honestly feel like majority of people that I know are 2 bad months away from literally losing everything they've worked their entire lives for. And this is where they get you, because sometimes you get to a point after all of that hustling where you're like, wow, I can take a breath. Let me sit down for a second and just enjoy all of the hard work that I've done, only to be hit with the biggest bill, the biggest expense that you've ever seen in your entire life. And you're like, well, fuck, that was a nice 5 fucking minutes, but now I'm back to the grind. We are not going to see the doctor. We are not going to the dentist. We are not being healthy because we can't afford it. 6 years ago, I got thyroid cancer, which was the most expensive process I've ever had to go through. And obviously, I will pay whatever to save my life. And I even had insurance at the time, right? I finally feel like I have recovered from that financial pitfall. However, there's all the other things in the world that I'm paying for. Plus, all of my scans look good. My blood work looks great. However, my doctor's like, you know what? Like, maybe we should do a few other scans. And I was like, well, do you feel like I'm at risk for getting cancer? She's like, no, just to be safe. And I'm like, okay, well, can you tell me how much those scans will cost me? $650. Even though I'm not sick, I feel great. My blood work looks good. My doctor wants to make me do a bunch of scans that are going to cost me $650. And I said, probably not. I'm not going to do that. And sure, if I only had to pay my premium, sure, I would love to get scanned and make sure I don't have cancer again. But I do not want to pay that much money for something that probably is not a risk. And sure, maybe that sounds like I'm gambling with my life, but like I need to use that money for my car bill, for my food bill, because you can't go to the grocery store without freaking spending $500 anymore. I'm a pretty positive person, but there has to be a change soon because I don't even have kids. It's just me and my husband, and I don't know how you guys are doing it. Because kids need everything. They outgrow everything. And like people wonder why my generation, why millennials are not having kids and we're not doing certain things. We can't afford it. We cannot afford it.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. Well, I'm hoping that you're doing great from wherever you're watching me from. As you know, I'm your host and presenter Agentic Stories, and in today's video, I think this is something that most of us probably saw it coming. But some people are still disillusioned. Some people are still in disbelief after all this is happening right in their face. Something which was once beautiful, something which was one of the greatest, something which was once feared. I'm talking about the American dream. And especially white people right now are coming and learning that indeed American dream was all but a scam. Everyone, white America was being scammed. At least I'll say for black people, they were not scammed because they didn't have a lot of expectations when it comes to the United States, because in their hands, their forefathers fought, their forefathers really struggled. They didn't have something special to claim that is theirs. probably for very few black people. But talking about middle class black America, trust me, they never had it easy. And white Americans today are coming to the realization that, dang, everything that was told unto us was a lie, because there is an economic shift that is happening today. And white Americans are being confronted by this harsh reality that they have to keep up with. Life is becoming so hard. People don't want to have kids. The life itself is becoming so hard, even for a single person to sustain themselves. And people are raising this question: where is the American dream? I'm posing you that question. Where is the American dream that promised Americans utopia, that promised white Americans all those lives after having the system being on their side? But at the end of the day, it culminated down to the reality that American dream was a lie. And if you think I'm lying, I want you to watch these videos. These are white people confessing at live. I mean, this is the time that everything is coming to in front. This is real time what's happening. So buckle up for this video. If you're watching us for the first time, kindly consider subscribing to the channel, join our membership, and really get so we can offer you. Until then, let's watch the video. I'll be back.
I tell you what, the dream growing up, I have a big ass shop house with a big ass shop, little piece of land, had some friends over, cookout, you know, something cool. You can't even buy a 3-bed, 2-bed piece of shit with the floors falling in for $300,000. How the f I'm gonna live my dream now? I can't even live my motherfucking dream. This is America. It's supposed to be about the American dream. The American dream ain't buying a house that I gotta put another $150,000 into just to walk on the fucking floor. How in the hell was it back in the 80s and 90s? You had somebody working at Walmart selling shit, living in a 5-bed, 4.5 bath, 3,000 square foot house that's worth over $1 million now. Where the f did we go wrong? I can't even live my dream. Hell, they can't even fix the fucking road I'm driving on, son of a bitches.
Yeah, I might be renting for the rest of my life. I ain't lying. I ain't got the 20%. I don't know how y'all got the 20%. I ain't got the 20%. Then on top of that, $300K ain't even getting you a nice crib. I'm not asking to stay in Beverly Hills. I just want to stay in a nice place like the suburbs, a safe place. $300K is not getting you that. $300K is getting you either a shack in the hood or a 2-hour commute to work from the boonies. The boonies or the hood, pick your poison. Then let's just say I had the 20%. I got the crib I wanted. I'm in the suburbs. Who has the closing cost? Who has housing maintenance if something goes wrong? We're talking about dropping unlimited money already on a crib. Now I'm in here and you telling me I can't just call maintenance and they come fix it for free? I got to pay for my washing machine when it break. If plumbing screw up, I got to pay for that. All these housing expenses on top of my bills already. How? Where is this big boy money coming from? I'm not understanding. I ain't even think about the part of, you know how much it costs, how much you have to put down just for your mortgage to be under 2 bands? Where's this money coming from? But when I see people with cribs like around my age, oh, first home, second home, you got it, big dog. You got it. We live in 2 different worlds, bro. You got it. Property taxes?
Idea that you could get married, buy a house, have a kid or 2, send them to an okay enough school, have 2 cars, send your kid to college, and retire. But get this. Over the last 50 years, the average household income increased 16%, while housing increased 190%, and college tuition increased 264%. On top of that, marketing is a $1.7 trillion industry, so their job is literally to make you spend more money. But of course, nobody teaches you this stuff in school. Health insurance, super expensive. Let's not get started on the quality of food, Monsanto, Big Pharma. It runs deep. But the final nail in the coffin, current government policy and the Federal Reserve actually make the wealth gap worse. Now this goes back a lot farther than this, but let's just start in 2008. Despite banks causing the crash, the government bailed them out and sent them millions and millions of dollars. To do this, Fed Chair Ben Bernanke championed quantitative easing, which is just a long way of saying to print a fuck ton of money. So where does all that money go? Well, into stocks and real estate, of course. And who already owns stocks and real estate? The wealthy, or at least the wealthy enough. Fast forward 10 years and the economy's already sitting on a 10-year bull run. And what happens? 2020, we print 40% of the money supply in just a few months. Now, I know this sounds very one-sided, and quantitative easing had a lot of positive benefits as well, but the only side that I'm on is yours. Now, this is basic supply and demand. Increase the money supply, decrease the value of the dollar. And when the value is decreasing, you want to invest in alternative assets like real estate, stocks, etc. So again, while the average American is saving money, they are losing money, and the already wealthy are getting more wealthy.
You want to know why the middle class is dying? I think the biggest reason is because cost of living keeps going up, but everybody's ability to make income keeps staying the same. So the middle class is being swallowed up into a poverty class. Because the average income for an American-born citizen is $56,000 a year. $56,000 a year! And I think that's before taxes too. So you're only taking home maybe like $48,000. That's $4,000 a month. I mean, most people's rent is $1,000 or $1,200 a month. How do people even survive off of that?
If 74,000 is middle class, if a 27-year-old with a bachelor's degree splitting a 2-bedroom apartment is middle class, how come they can't buy a house? Just 3 short years ago, 74K was middle class, upper middle class, really, because you could buy a house for $250 in 90% of the country. Now you need almost $120,000. So what's your advice to someone who is making $74,000 and in 85% of the country can no longer buy a home? So even if they pay off their student loans, which they should, even if they pay off their car, which they should, even if they save up 20%, $80,000 for a down payment, if they don't have $100,000 salary to back it up, they can't qualify for the loan. So the question remains, how is $74,000 middle class when even with the 20% down payment and no debt, you still can't afford the average house in this country?
To be middle class in America these days, you need to make about $175,000 per year. So I don't think the middle class exists anymore. I think it's slowly becoming you either have money or you don't.
The middle class is dead, and you can tell because the financial advice being given right now is to cease doing the things that define a middle class lifestyle so that you can get by. When the middle class rose to prominence in the 50s, it was accompanied by a boom in areas like department stores and franchises that sold merch and opportunities for to pay for entertainment and vacations. It was accompanied by the rise of unnecessary spending, in other words, of expendable income. Being middle class is fundamentally about having expendable income without having it in such opulent extremes that you're really rich. And what's the financial advice people are giving right now that they seem to think is going to solve everybody's personal financial issues? Don't go out to eat, don't go on vacation, don't buy name brand stuff, buy your clothes off the sales rack. Not participating in those things fundamentally removes you from the middle class. Department stores literally came into existence alongside the middle class because people wanted new clothes without like the cost of tailor-made clothes. These things are the things that define the middle class. The middle class is supposed to be able to go on vacation. They're supposed to be able to go out to eat to a fairly nice restaurant every now and then. They're supposed to be able to go to concerts and buy name brand groceries without that breaking the bank. And not only is the middle class supposed to be able to do that without taking on a ton of debt, they're supposed to be able to do that while also putting a significant amount of money in savings. Because capitalism, first and foremost, is supposed to give us the ability to take care of ourselves for our entire lives. If you cannot comfortably afford to do those things, you're not middle class.
I just watched what has to be one of the most horrifying videos I have ever seen on this app regarding our country's financial future. It was posted by a woman named Tiffany. I will link it. She's talking about how private equity firms have been buying up all the single family homes. So up until very recently, we didn't actually have the numbers to say just how many homes they've been buying up. And most politicians across the board, Democrat, Republican, whatever, have been saying, well, they're really only buying like 18% of single family homes. And then economists chimed in and said that if private equity firms are buying up anywhere from 18 to 20 to 23% of single family homes in this country, that by 2030, they would own 60% of all of the homes in America. Well, we just got the final numbers. In 2023, private equity firms purchased 44% of all of the single family homes in America, which means death for our middle class. Our generation will not be homeowners.
Once If you live in the state of Florida, you need to be careful. My mortgage went up from $2,300 a month to $3,500 a month. Basically another fucking mortgage. Why did that happen? Why did that happen, Sean? Yeah, let's explain that. So after Hurricane Ian, there was a lot of flooding that happened. That flooding, well, lobbying happened. The insurance companies lobbied DeSantis and said, hey, look, we're going to send you a fuck ton of money for your campaigns. You go ahead and let a few things slide. One of which is making sure attorneys aren't able to sue for appropriate funds. Just enough funds to actually fucking do the work on the property because the property was damaged. And if that wasn't going to happen, they're going to leave the state. And guess what? Some of them still left the state. Now we're stuck with monopolies of insurance companies. Well, also what happened was FEMA. FEMA came in and said, hey, you're not in a flood zone. You're going to be now. They remapped all the flood zones. So that means houses that didn't need flood insurance now need flood insurance. Another thing that happened is local counties as well as the state went ahead and increased taxes. Them fucking taxes go against your escrow. So homeowners insurance, flood insurance, taxes. All that shit went up like crazy in a fucking week apparently, because my January 1st payment was $2,300. February 1st, they're like, hey, you gotta make $3,500 somehow. Good fucking luck. All this happened, right? All this happened. So what's happening in Florida? Here's what's fucking happening. They're making sure there's a division of both poverty and ultra rich. There is no longer a middle class here. I make six figures in some, okay? I should be able to afford $2,300 a month mortgage. It's tight, especially with a kid in fucking childcare, which is another fucking mortgage in itself. Anyways, besides the point. What's gonna happen? And I'm talking to the ultra rich that probably aren't on TikTok. Send this to your great grandparent that you're waiting on generational wealth from. What happens in the state of Florida when you no longer have kids of the middle class operating the grocery stores or doing your landscaping or doing construction on your house or renovating your house? What happens then?
I'm drowning. I'm drowning in debt, which exacerbates my drowning in depression. I thought by now, at this point in my life, I would have some sort of accomplishment, but I don't. And it's just getting worse. And I know this sounds dark, but I completely understand why people choose to walk away from life over this. You know what I mean. I know I have to be careful with how I say things, but there's no end in sight. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's just no hope. It's only getting worse. And I keep trying and trying and trying. And I keep working harder and harder and harder. And I'm so sick of hearing people say, work smarter, not harder. Well, I've tried that too. And I swear to God, you guys, I've done everything right. I swear to God. Like, I take responsibility for my actions. I do the right thing. And it's just never ending. It's never ending. I'm drowning. And I've said this before, but this is not supposed to be what life is. This is not supposed to be how we do things. I am so sick of watching people around me be able to take vacations. We go camping because it's cheap, and we go camping during the off season, like in the winter and cold months, because it's free. That's all we can afford to do. That is our vacation. And thankfully, I love it. So I'm not complaining about that because I would choose it. But also, it would be nice to afford a nice trip somewhere, or a nice piece of jewelry, or anything. That's not even it. Like, I don't care. Even if I don't have a nice piece of jewelry, that's not the point. The point is, I wish I could just be comfortable and not overwhelmed every waking moment of every single day about what the heck I'm gonna do about money. There are only so many hours in the day, and everybody who knows me knows how hard I work.
Don't you love when the IRS randomly sends you a $2,700 bill and tells you that you didn't pay enough taxes one year? And then they tell you can set up a payment plan, so you set up like $40 a month because that's all you can afford right now. And they basically come at you and they're like, just so you know, if you pay $40 a month for the next 6 or 7 years, you're gonna pay $6,000 in interest. So even though I originally owed them $2,700, I'm gonna pay like fucking $8,000 to the fucking IRS. Like, you can't make this shit up. So now I owe the IRS. My teeth are literally rotting out of my fucking head. I gotta go to a dental school. I'm praying that I've called them like 3 times and I fucking can't get through to anybody. My dentist is like, yeah, well, we can fix the broken tooth and like a quarter of your mouth. We can fix that for $330 if you have like $330. And I'm like, I literally don't have that. So I have to wait 2 weeks to get my teeth fixed. So I'm literally like chewing on one side because half of my mouth is fucked. I'm just like so fucking done. Like I can't even afford to take care of my body.
Here it is. I'm thinking I'm going to be able to go to sleep in my car. When I got off work, I clocked out at 9:30 p.m. and I came to my car. I drove to the gas station, a 24-hour gas station, and it was so busy, like everybody outside, maybe because it's Saturday night, but yeah. So I left from over there and I ended up parking in front of the emergency room, the hospital emergency room, and I tried to go to sleep, and I cannot go to sleep. It's so hot in here. Even with like rolling the window down a little bit, it's so hot. Like I got the door cracked open. I'm burning up. I'm sleepy. And I'm scared I might not wake up in the morning if I go to sleep in this car. Because it is too hot. Wait.
Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Well, I'm hoping that you're great from wherever you're watching me from, whether it's in the evening, morning, afternoon, daytime, whether you're in the work, in the farm, in the house watching me. I really find this video so educative because I'm gonna be sharing my analysis in regards to what I tried to find out. What about the American dream, which was something which was once great, something that people in the world, Africans, wanted to just go and set their foot in the United States. Generally, the American dream is a lie, is a scam, right? The American dream still remains a smokescreen because everything that was being promised to the United States citizens didn't come true. Now, the myth of the American dream. The American dream is the belief that hard work leads to upward mobility, home ownership, and stability, which has long been a cultural pillar of the U.S. identity. It was especially marketed to white Americans as a birthright of citizenship. However, this dream was built on exclusion, native dispossession, black exploitation, and immigrant labor. For decades, white families benefited disproportionately from government programs that locked out others, making the dream seem real. But as wages stagnate, costs rise, and job security fades, even many white Americans are discovering that the dream was never guaranteed. It was subsidized by historical inequality. Yes, everything is coming out in the clear. Everything is coming out in the light. Also, let's talk about the middle class, which was built by the government policy. After World War II, policies like the GI Bill, FHA home loans, and union protections helped create a large middle class. These programs provided housing, education, and job security, but they were racially discriminatory in practice. Black and brown Americans were often denied access. The middle class didn't emerge from free market capitalism, not capitalism alone. It was crafted by state intervention. As those protections have been stripped away over time, especially under neoliberal economic reforms, so too has the stability they once offered, leaving even white families economically exposed. And as a result, these are what you're seeing that are happening in real time. People raging out, really out, the life is so hard for them. They can't even afford a meal for themselves. Like, it's really crazy. And even renting a house and living and having a family. And this is affecting the family structure, right? This is affecting the family structure as there is different dynamics in these. I'm also going to be talking about neoliberalism and the economic gutting of the working class. Since the 1980s, both Democratic and Republican leaders have embraced neoliberal policies. Deregulation, privatization, austerity, and global free trade. These reforms benefited corporations and the wealthy while weakening labor unions, slashing social programs, and shipping jobs overseas. The economic security that once underpinned the middle class began to erode. White Americans, many of whom had stable industrial jobs, are now facing the same job precarity and wage stagnation. that communities of color have dealt with for generations. The decline is not due to personal failure, but a structural realignment of the economy against workers. I'm also going to be talking about the disappearance of the family-sustained job. In past decades, a single income could support a family, afford mortgage, fund college, and plan for retirement. Today, such jobs are rare. Most middle-class families need two or more incomes, often while juggling debt and unstable employment, healthcare costs, student loans, and inflation have devoured household earnings. Many white families are shocked to realize that even with the college degree, their children can't afford what they once had. This economic shift is not just material, it is psychological, shattering the expectations that were once passed down across generations. Right? Talk about the rise of gig work and the collapse of job stability. A key marketer of the new economy is the rise of the gig economy. Part-time, freelance, or contract work with no benefits or security. This shift was once thought to affect only marginalized workers, but now its impact broad swaths of the population, including educated white professionals. From Uber drivers to adjunct professors, millions live paycheck to paycheck, unable to build savings or interest in long-term goals. The American economy no longer provides predictable upward mobility, and many are realizing that the system rewards wealth, not labor. I'm also going to be addressing the psychological toll, despair, addiction, and radicalization. The collapse of the middle class has triggered not just economic anxiety, but a mental health crisis, substance abuse, and rising suicide rates, particularly among white working-class Americans. The term deaths of despair has been used to describe the opioid crisis and suicides now plaguing former industrial strongholds. In some cases, this despair leads to political radicalization, with some white Americans blaming immigrants, black people, or the elites for their pain, rather than the economic system itself. This rage, stoked by right-wing media, reflects a deep sense of betrayal and confusion at the same time. Also, I'm going to be addressing the racial reckoning, white people experiencing what others have long endured. What many white Americans are facing now, economic exclusion, job insecurity, household instability, are not new phenomena. Black, brown, and indigenous communities have endured those realities for generations. The difference is that white people were previously insulated by racial privilege. They are waking up to truth Black Americans have long known. The American rewards wealth and whiteness, not work or morality. This new awareness can lead to either solidarity or further racial resentment. I'm also going to be addressing the role of state in abandoning the people. The state has not merely failed to protect the middle class, it has actively facilitated its collapse. Remember, tax cuts for the wealthy, deregulation of finance, disinvestment in public infrastructure, and lack of universal healthcare are not accidental. They are policy choices. Instead of investing in people, the state has subsidized corporation and militarism. White Americans, many whom trusted the government to serve their interests, are realizing that the state serves capital. The betrayal is not personal, it is systemic. Also, I'm also going to be talking about the real American dream. Wealth for the few, that's the real American dream. The American dream was always more of a myth than a guarantee, but now its fiction is exposed. In a country where 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half combined, and where the CEO make hundreds of times more than the workers, the dream has become a cruel joke for many, especially young people. Owning a home, retiring, or living without debt are impossible goals. What was once presented as a ladder has become a mirage, visible but unreachable. This crisis calls into question not just policy, but the entire narrative of American meritocracy. Lastly, I'd like to talk about a fork in the road. Rebellion or reconstruction, just a question. The decline of the white middle class could trigger a dangerous reaction, or it could be a turning point. If white Americans recognize their faults as connected to the experiences of black and brown communities, there is a potential for cross-racial solidarity and transformative change. But if they respond with resentment, scapegoating, and nostalgia for a racially exclusive past, it could fuel further division. The real challenge is whether the moment will lead to structural reform or deeper regression. Understanding the collapse of the middle class is not just about economic task, it is a cultural, political reckoning with limits of the American promise. I'm your host and presenter, Jindak Stories, but until then, let me see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.